April, but I'm calling it. Sinners is the best movie of the year. It's only downhill from here. By that I mean, even if I rate another movie 5 out of 5, it won't do what Sinners did for me. It won't. If you haven't watched it yet, you need to. You want to be part of the Sinners conversation, okay? So, the summary. It's 1932. Jim Crow. We're in Mississippi, Clarkdale to be exact. And twins Smoke, played by Michael B. Jordan, and Stack, played by Michael B. Jordan, have come back home and they want to invest. They want to invest in their community. They want to open up a business. Over the course of gathering what they need to open up this business, they rekindle the relationships that they had left behind, both romantic and platonic and familial. On the night of their grand opening, right, For Us By Us, here comes a great evil, supernatural evil, wanting to be let into the function. Will the Smokestack twins and their friends and family and guests be able to outlast the evil? Who will survive the night? It is an incredible movie, written and directed by Ryan Coogler. In addition to Michael B. Jordan, it also stars Miles Catton, Jack O'Connell, Wunmi Mosaku, Haley Steinfeld, Jamie Lawson, Delroy Lindo, Lee Jun Lee, and Omar Miller, among other people. Sinners is funny. It is full of heart. It is full of soul. It is full of layers. The cinematography is beautiful. Sonically, it's beautiful. Like the music, like I said in my initial out of theater reaction, the music is a character all on its own. It's a perfect movie, and let's talk about it. First of all, there's a normalcy in Sinners that I was not expecting. First of all, a lot happened in this movie that I was not expecting. First of all, I thought that the twins were going to be vampires. That's what I expected from what I read last year. That was dead ass wrong. So, the normalcy, right? These characters, everyone here, except for Remick, they are truly just living their lives. I walked away the second time feeling like I would want to know them, not be with them, but definitely want to know them. They are living in a horrible time, right? They are living in a time where they are subjugated, especially our Black characters. And yet, there's so much normalcy happening, and their worries are so normal, and yet every so often, as they're living their lives, there's just casual horror happening. So, for example, when Mary walks up to Stack at the train station, it's just like a regular couple, where have you been? You blew back into town, you didn't come see me, all that stuff. And yet you see Stack looking around, very on alert, because this is a white woman, as far as everybody else knows. And if some white person, some white man especially, decides to make a big deal out of it, that could spell bad things for him and for her. And I think he's more worried about her, considering how we saw the relationship played out and what we learned about them. I don't think he'd be worried about, he would be in danger, but I think he would be more worried about what would be done to her. Another example is when Stack goes to see Cornbread, he's cracking on him, and it's just normal banter, and yet Cornbread is picking cotton. But what's actually even more horrifying is that his wife, who is heavily pregnant, is also picking cotton. This woman is pregnant, but because she is Black, she can't just be sitting up on her feet. She can't just be putting up her feet. She is in the hot ass sun, baking, and still having to meet a quota. A reminder that Black women have always had to work, have always been required to work in this country, and have not been able to own their labor. Or a third example, when Smoke goes to visit Bo Chow, he goes to the store and he's talking about getting what he needs for his party, wanting a sign, trying to engage another small business owner, and then Bo sends his daughter to go get her mom, and you realize this is a segregated street. Right across is the store for white people, And if anybody black goes in there, or if anybody white in that store decides they want to make their day interesting, they could just throw out an accusation and it suddenly would be danger. There's a lot of casual horror in this movie. But along the vein of the normalcy that is in this horror movie, the characters' relationships with each other, there's a lot of affection in Sinners. Of course, between Smoke and Stack, the twins, which I'll talk more about, but also between Smoke and Annie, a lot of longing for their child, for each other, the time they've lost, the pain that they share between them. There's a lot of longing between Stack and Mary. Mary and Annie's names are way too close to each other. But there's a lot of longing between Stack and Mary, the whole, not star-crossed per se, but just, Stack's line that he says where, like, you were never going to be happy with me. You were never going to have a good life with me. And the bare truth is that they could be together. Mary could live her life as a colored woman. I mean, she could. And she had been living her life as that. But it seems like 7 years ago, like before the brothers left for the war, a decision was made, highly encouraged by Stack, for her to have a better life and choose another life. And she married a white man and extracted herself from the black community. Mary's life is horrifying. On my Threads timeline, there was a lot of, like, I guess dismissal, we'll say, of Mary because she went outside to go talk to the vampires that she didn't know were vampires. Like, come on, people. But Mary is living a horrific life. Think about it. She has to hide the fact that she has black in her ancestry. In 1932, if those people, since we're talking about vampires, if those, let's say vampires, right? Those white people smell that black blood in her, on her, they would pounce. They would tear her apart. Mary is essentially self-mutilating every single day. She is isolated. Think of the violence that her husband would heap on her if he ever found out that she has black ancestry. Think of the violence her grandfather might heap on her if he ever found out. And in the movie, she just lost her mother, but the community she is living in, like, who knows? Like, she probably never told those people about her mom, right? Maybe she said her mom is dead because her mom is actually half black. And so she is grieving, but she can't grieve with the community that she lives with day to day. And so, as Remick said, she came to the juke joint, not just for Stack, but to be amongst people who saw her mother as human and who can see her full humanity. So I just wanted to talk about Mary for a little bit because she is living a type of horror that I think some people who have seen the movie like are just not willing or don't care to think about. But I think it's one of those things that makes this movie so brilliant and so damn interesting that we didn't spend a lot of time on Mary, but if you think a bit further about what her identity means in this time and what her choice to pass for white means, she is living, like, that could be a movie on its own, passing, like having to hide that in the white community. Despite the horror that is forced upon them by their society, there's a lot of affection, a lot of sensuality, a lot of camaraderie between these characters. Now, let's talk about the party, the A-plot. Okay, so let's talk about the main plot, right? Vampires wanting to come inside. The way that Jack O'Connell's acting, okay, and the sound, the music, right, and the lighting, the way those three things come together is just magic. Sinners is scary. I'm not one to trust. Like, I have a very high tolerance for scary, but I haven't seen a lot of people talk enough about how creepy it is. It is genuinely creepy. The jumps, like, it's so very good, okay? I want to note one thing about Remick, before I get into like what was happening at the party. When he flies, because he flew, when he lands in front of the clan household, he calls the Choctaw by their name, by their proper name. He says, Choctaw are chasing me. But once he spotted that hood and, he heard what they were calling the Native Americans, and then he saw that hood, he switched up and was like, yeah, the engines. Yeah. He was like, yeah, let me talk to you how you want to be talked to. Anyways, I want to specifically talk about Grace and Smoke. There is a very interesting parallel / juxtaposition between Smoke and Grace that I haven't seen anyone talk about. I feel like when it comes to Grace's decision to let the vampires in, a lot of the commentary is just very like reductive and simple, and I think there's something a lot more interesting there. People are not letting up on Grace. Meanwhile, Grace and Smoke are the only people trapped in that juke who have the role of protector. Smoke is a protector of his brother, Stack, and Grace is a protector of her daughter. She is a mother. That is her motivation for letting the vampires in. Now, she said a line to Smoke, that was very insensitive, but tracked for the rest of the movie, essentially. She said to Smoke, you're a veteran. You fought in wars. And I watched you shoot 2 men, she didn't watch it, but she's like, you shot 2 men in the butt for stealing from you. But these vampires kill your brother, and you're not gonna do nothing? Well, Grace, like, he's grieving, like, he is in shock, but she does have a point. It is understandable that Smoke is incapacitated by Stack's death. Very understandable. It's also understandable that Grace is revved up and activated by the need to protect her daughter. Like, Grace has the most common, most reliable motivation you could give a character. She needs to protect her child. And it's just very interesting that, Grace isn't allowed to put on a helmet and go fight in anybody's war because she's a woman and because she's Chinese. But when literal monsters come knocking at the door, she bosses up and she's ready to face them head on. Whereas Smoke, like I said before, is incapacitated by Stack's death, and he never recovers. Yes, he grabs the weapons and he fights, but Stack's death incapacitates him so much that, and when I say he never recovers, like, he does, it's only been a day, but Stack was the best thing about him. Like he said, he doesn't want to do life without his twin brother. This is who he was on this earth to protect. And so, as such, he couldn't bring himself to kill him. I saw someone, though trying to be understanding about Grace letting the vampires in, still called her decision selfish. It's not selfish. She's trying to protect her daughter. Now, she had no reason to believe Remick, because I also saw that. People being like, oh, well, he only wanted Sammy. Remick had 3-4 bodies from the juke at that point. He had bodies already. So the whole I'm only here for Sammy, no reason to believe him. He also told them he was going to, let's go go get the Grand Wizard after this. He already threatened Grace. And so she's activated, whereas Smoke is incapacitated. In addition to her daughter being the motivator, Grace flat out thinks that the best way to handle the situation is to let them in. Like, it's right there. And that's the thing. It's like, it's okay that she let the vampires in. The question is, does it make sense? Does it make sense for her as a character? Is it organic for her as a character? The answer is yes, 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 and yes. And also, at the very, very, very basic level, y'all, we needed the plot to move along. We came here to see people fight vampires. Smoke, or getting to his character, said, no, the correct thing to do is just sit down and just wait for the sun. And because Smoke is the leader of the group, everyone was in agreement with that, except for Grace. Somebody needed to let the vampires in. She said, come on in, bitch, because I got something for you. And she went out like a boss. And the other thing, too, with Grace is that she did not want this abomination, that is Beau, her husband, to continue living. He was a threat to Grace, but also he was gone. Like, Annie just finished teaching them about the souls being trapped. Like, come on, y'all. Anyways, I think that's very, very interesting. I think it's a great juxtaposition between her and Smoke. The other person who kept their wits about them when literal monsters showed up is Annie. Annie stayed calm, cool, and collected. She didn't panic. She drew on the knowledge that she had, and she equipped everyone with the knowledge and the weapons and the know-how that they needed in order to try to survive the night. Definitely in order for them to fight back. I think that's interesting. You know, like the macho guy, Alpha, even though I don't like using that descriptor, but the Alpha became incapacitated, but Grace and Annie both kept their wits about them. Now, what did they have to survive? They had to survive Remick. Sinners completely subverted my expectations on what the vampire would represent. I really thought that the vampire was going to be a stand-in for racism, colonization, the KKK, everything wrong with the Jim Crow South. Come to find out, the man ain't even from the South. He's not from the United States, and I already knew he was going to be from the time period. Remick is very interesting to me. I'm fascinated by this decision because it is intentional to set the story in the Jim Crow South, but bypass making your supernatural evil a representation or manifestation of the hierarchical societal thing that is harming Black people at the time. Ryan Coogler very brilliantly decides to let the evil of that time be the evil of that time. Because let's get it straight, Remick ain't got nothing on the KKK. What the KKK were doing was so much more evil. Like, in the plot. What they were doing is so much more evil and horrific than anything Remick was doing. You know what I mean? Like, he was biting people. Okay, so does Remick represent cultural appropriation? No, he doesn't. No, I don't think so. Does he represent what happened, the longing that happens for white people after they have assimilated and given up their culture? No, because he still has his culture. What Remick doesn't have and what he's desperately searching for is community. So him targeting Sammy was very much real, recognized real. He lacks the community that Sammy, Smoke, Stack, and everybody else in that juke, are Black characters. He lacks what they have. And so he wants them to join him. The issue is that not only are they trapped, but in a way, he becomes the center of their universe as their sire, as we saw during that great, river dancing scene. So Remick is trying to force a cultural exchange that nobody asked for and nobody is interested in. But as far as, his connection to the time, I am endlessly fascinated by the fact that rather than give him things in common with the supremacists, they instead align him with, the loss of original culture with the colonization. The only difference being that the colonization that happened to Remick's people was not race-based like it is for our Black characters. But what it takes, the evil it takes to go out of your way to fake sell an old sawmill to these two Black men so that you can go kill them later. Those men were also thirsting. They were thirsting for Black life. That shit is scary. And like I said, Remick, he wishes he could be that evil. The last thing I want to talk about is the main theme of the movie, which is in the B plot, I believe, which is Sammy. So, yes, they had to survive. You know, who's going to survive the night, right? They had to survive the vampire. Smoke did, and so did Sammy. But the real triumph is the triumph of the blues. It's the triumph of authentic Black Southern expression. That's what was ultimately at stake in the story. So we, of course, meet Sammy, and he is between a rock and a hard place because his Christian daddy, pastor, wants him to put down the guitar and give himself over to the Lord. But the thing is, when you are under that much oppression, you know, living in fascism, the spirit needs culture to survive. It needs the old ways. It needs to be able to evolve in the way that it expresses itself. And the problem is, in this movie and in real life, Christianity demands the suppression of everything authentic so that it can exist. So the spirit needs culture. It needs the old ways. What are the old ways? The movie gave them to us. It is storytelling. It's song. It's dance. It needs to express itself through instruments. It needs to express itself through the voice. It needs to express itself through the body, gyrating, popping, locking, twerking, the blues, rap. It needs to express the pain through these things, but also the joy. The scene, y'all. The scene where Sammy is singing that song and he pierces the veil, and that voice pierces the veil and brings together the past and the future. That's when I began to float in the theater the first time. And watching it the second time, I still got chills. It is the most beautiful thing I have probably ever seen since, like, Black Panther. Original Black Panther. But top 3, number 1, my favorite scene in the movie. That scene. Also, number 2 favorite scene, the scene where Delta Slim is telling the story of what happened to his friend, and he transforms that pain into the soul-stirring hum. He transforms it into the blues. The soul needs that, and Christianity forbids that. And so the big question was, will the blues survive? Will that authentic Black Southern expression survive? And it did. And in addition to the blues, singing, dancing, reveling, the spirit needs the old ways of the old religions or the old spirituality. Hoodoo. Annie's spirituality, her faith system, is what saved their lives. Someone on Threads said this movie is a love letter to God. I completely disagreed, and we engaged in that. It's a love letter to authentic. Now, the movie doesn't it criticizes it, rightfully so, and it does it very, very well, but it doesn't cast Christianity away, because in that beautiful line by Remick, when he starts reciting the prayer, he joins Sammy in reciting the prayer. He says, yeah, when those MFers came, they forced that on us too, but despite that, those words still bring me comfort. During the song, The Spell, when Sammy pierces the veil, there's a line where he says, like, I don't remember, but it's something like, I'm bathed in the blues, bathed in holy water too. So it's like, it's both there, but this movie is definitely to honor what Christianity says is horrible, and yet is very authentic and true to Black people, to African Americans. And because Sammy chose authenticity in the old ways, I am sure he went on to honor his loved ones, his cousins, Annie, Mary, all of the people that night whose lives were taken away. And Sinners is just so perfect and so beautiful, because the Smokestack twins have a terrible reputation, a harsh reputation, and yet they came back and they wanted to offer their people a reprieve. They wanted to offer them a place that they could come and be celebrated. Celebrate and be celebrated, and celebrate each other and be valued. Monk wanted them to be valued and bring some money, but like when that's your clientele, you know what I mean? They're Pope. They were able to give most of those people a night of true happiness and celebration. And I just think that it's beautiful, the juxtaposition of the reputation that they had and the harsh life that they lived, that they were able to do something so beautiful and offer freedom to their community. I want to end with my top 3 favorite scenes. I already mentioned number 1 is the drawing down, the summoning of the ancestors, the piercing of the veil. Number 2, when Delta Slim breaks out into the blues. Number 3 favorite scene, I don't see getting a lot of attention, is Sammy telling Pearline, I want to taste every step you took to get here. That is the sexiest thing that happened. Spit in each other's mouths all you want. That is the sexiest thing that happened in this movie. He said, I want to taste every step. Also the final scene, not final, but the scene between Old Sammy and Stack, my heart was like, once a week I wake up like in a sweat, but that's still the happiest night of my life. Is it the same for you? Was it the same for you? Tears. I love this movie. It's so perfect. If you have seen it, let me know what you think.